Okay, welcome everybody. As we finish another parak of Shas and Mishna Yomis, as we learned the last Mishnah in the third parak of Yoma and the first Mishnah in the fourth parak, and we are sponsored Lila Nishmas Rabbi Rachmiel Gershon Ben Reb Tzvi Yehuda L'Refuah Shalem Fel Yomish Ben Chaisar by Yo Klugman and family for their Nachas Gezun Parnasa and everything wonderful, by the Fisher family Lila Nishmas Spasi Bas Rabbi Shlomo Ben Avram Alevi Peril Bas Ruvain Neshama should have an Aliyah. Now we mentioned the philanthropists that and those that did inventive things for the Beis Hamikdash, Ben Cotton that added faucets and made the wheel to lower the kier into the ground, and Hilni Amalka that gave a candelabra that shone at the precise time when there was the Zman Kriyashma. We learned different people that were praised for their innovative ideas. The Elo Lignai, however, the following are to be mentioned to their disgrace. Shel Beis Garmu, the household of Garmu, they didn't want to share their art at being able to remove the lechem aponim, which was made in a shape, according to some, in a boat-like shape. They didn't want to share their art and how to remove it from the oven wall without breaking it. And Shel Beis Avtinas, the household of Avtinas, they didn't want to share the secret ingredient in the Ketores. They had a secret ingredient called Male Oshan that allowed the smoke to go straight up instead of spreading out, and they didn't want to reveal the identity of that grass. These two houses gave as their reason because they didn't want it to fall in the hands of those that would use it for idolatry. But the sages felt they were just doing it to keep a monopoly, and therefore they mentioned them lignai. Hugris ben Levi, Hugris the son of Levi, Yoidea Perik Bashir, he knew how to sing a special method with his finger in his mouth, like a type of whistling, and he didn't want to share the technique. Ben Kamtzer loiratza l'lamin al ma'asak sav. He had an interesting thing that he was able to write the Shem Hashem with 4 quills tied to 4 of his fingers, and at the same time he wrote the Yud Kei Vav Kei all at the same time. So it became Hashem's name immediately, and also that there was no worry of talking in between writing the name, and he didn't want to share that skill. Al Rishonim Nemar, the first ones that did all the good things, Zecher Tzadik Levracha, the mention of a righteous person should be for a blessing. Val Elu, but these, Nemar, it could be said, V'Shem Risham Yirkov, the name of the wicked should rot. That's pretty harsh. And between Nidcha and Mariv, I mentioned that there is a question if you could say Yemach Shemai on a Jew, that his name should be blotted out. There's a story with Rabbi Yosef Chaim Sonnenfeld that there was a maskil who was that's a secular Jew that harassed the religious Jews, and they considered themselves the enlightened ones in the Enlightenment. And when this notorious maskil died, so somebody mentioned to Reb Chaim Sonnenfeld, the Rav of Yerushalayim, Yemach Shemai on him. And Reb Chaim Sonnenfeld told him that you don't say on a Jew Yemach Shemai. And his proof was the fact that if Reuven was married to Sarah, and Reuven was a Rasha, and he died childless, Shimon has a mitzvah to be miyabim Reuven's wife, even though Reuven was a Rasha. And what's the purpose? Lahakim lachiv shem, to perpetuate his brother's name. So you see, on a Rasha you don't say Yemach Shemai. To the contrary, there's a mitzvah lahakim lachiv shem. That's a story from Rav Yosef Chaim Sonnenfeld. It's interesting because they talk about whether you could say Yemach Shemai v'Zichrei on Yeshu. And they want to point out that Yeshu is an acronym for Yemach Shemai v'Zichrei. But according to this, Rav Yosef Chaim Sonnenfeld, you don't say it on a Jew. But you do say Shem Rishon Yirkav, because this our Mishnah does talk about Jews. There is a difference between Yamach Shemai and Shem Rishon Yirkav, but it's just interesting. And now we start the fourth perek, which continues. The Kohen Gadol, as we know, was going to the east, where there were the two twin goats, and one would be for Hashem, and one would be La'azazel, and it had to be chosen by a lottery. So Toraf Bekalpe. Now, some people learn Torah Bekalpi means he mixes the box so that it should get mixed up well. However, the Rav learns Torah Bekalpi means he went in, he had to pick the two boxwood, or later on they made it into gold, the two gold lots, one that said Lashem, one that says Lazazel. So Torah, he snatched it quickly. So he didn't have time to feel if it says Lashem on it, because he wanted it, that Lashem, to come out in his right hand, which would have been nicer. So he snatched it out of the box, and he took out the two lotteries, one in his right hand, one in his left hand. Echad kasav alav Lashem, one says on it for Hashem, echad kasav alav La'azazel. Haskan b'yaminai, the deputy Kohen Gadol stood to the Kohen Gadol's right, v'roish beis av mismailai, and the head of the beis av, which was the group of Kohanim that worked that day, the head of the Beis Av stood to his left. Imshel Shem Olam Yaminai, if LaHashem came out on his right, Haskan Amalai, the deputy who was on his right, said, Ishi Kohen Gadol, Sir Kohen Gadol, Hag Beyamincha, raise your right hand, it has the one LaHashem. Vimshel Shem Olam Ismailai, if it came up on the left, then Roish Beis Av, the head of Beis Av on his left, Omer like Ishi Kohen Gadol, Sir Kohen Gadol, Hag Be'Svailcha, lift up your left hand. Nisanon al Shnei Asirim, he placed it on the two goats. V'aymer Nisanoi al Shnei Asirim, Nisanon al Shnei Asirim. V'aymer, and he would say that the one that had LaHashem, he would announce LaHashem Echatas. For Hashem, it's a sin offering. And he said the ineffable name, the Yud Kei Vav Kei. Reb Shmuel says he doesn't have to say the word Chatas. Lo Yitzchak Laimer Chatas El LaHashem. This is the one for Hashem. And since he said the ineffable name, Ve'ein Einen Achrav Baruch Shem, blessed is the name, K'vod Malchusa, of your glorious kingdom, La'olam Va'ed, forever and ever. Rabbi Isai, again, share this week is at 8:50. We also want to remind you, tomorrow night there's a Chumash shir. If anybody would like to dedicate the Chumash shir, 718-916-3100, 718-916-3100, rmmwsi@aol.com, rmmwsi@aol.com. Also, we want to remind everybody that we have uploaded for your viewing pleasure on YouTube very, very interesting shiurim. There's a shir, Don't Be a Faker. There's a shir, Hesped about Rav Miller. There's a shir about longevity by my Zayda's grave. There's a shir by Mama Rachel's grave. There's a very interesting shiurim that are uploaded. Give a look at it. And thank you for joining us, and have a wonderful evening.